Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's podcast. And today we are joined by Jamie, Gary, David, Darren, and James. And what have we got to say this week?
Sithee!
Probably not.
Oh, no.
Sithee.
Right, you said it at the end, don't you? Ta-da.
Lovely. Good job.
Start.
Cheers, ladies and gentlemen. Let's rock and roll. Let's get this thing going. Let's see what
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers, ladies.
Bums up, fan is out.
How's your brew, James?
It's very nice. Very nice.
Excellent.
Cup of tea, traditional, but this week I'm joined by ginger nuts. Ginger nuts.
I love ginger nuts.
So we're dunking throughout, so excuse me.
Desert Island question. If you could only take one biscuit, what would it be?
Ooh, ginger nuts close on the call, you know. Ooh.
Hobnob, maybe. Hobnob. Chocolate hobnob.
Chocolate digestive.
I'm with Jamie. Chocolate digestive all the way.
Jammy Dodger.
Oh, a nice chocolate finger for me.
Moving on.
We haven't
Come
got
on,
to that
Dave. What's your biscuit of choice, mate?
Garibaldi.
Oh, I've had a Garibaldi since I was a kid.
That's something from 80s, is that, isn't it, Dave? Huh?
Anyone want to guess what chemical compound I am this week?
yet. I better ask the lad. He's a chemistry teacher.
MDMA.
No. Close.
Chemical compound. Don't know, mate.
Methamphetamine.
No, never tried that one. It's caffeine. It's caffeine.
Some sort of alcohol. Oh, caffeine.
Caffeine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how true this is, actually, but I heard the most precious liquid on Earth is actually toner, printer ink.
It's the most expensive.
Expensive. Sorry, that's what I should have. That's how I should have worded it. Yeah,
Is it own brand or third party?
I don't think it makes any difference, mate.
It does with prints.
Yeah, 106 quid it is to fill up my printer.
How many cartridges?
Well, it's 10, but they're only, I think, 13 mil. It's, I should have gone for
one
the
cartridge. 100 and odd quid.
No. That's for the whole 10. But the trouble is,
That's cheap then. They're about £30 each.
no, it depends.
Canon Pro 9000 one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the better printer you got, the bigger tanks. I should have perhaps gone up for the next printer up. To be honest with you, I mean, I was talking to Owen about this, and he went for the next printer up, and it does cost him, I think, something like 400 quid to fill up his printer.
Yeah.
But the tanks are a lot bigger, so when you kind of work out how many millimeters you get for 500 quid compared to how many millimeters I get for £100, it is better,
How long does that last you for, Dan?
Oh, mate, I do struggle a little bit with my printing because every time I look at it on the screen, even though I calibrate and I send off all the bespoke profiles, the paper profiles, it never quite comes out exactly how I see it on the screen. So when you say how long does it last, it depends. If I can get a print to print fairly quickly, then they do last obviously quite a while. But if I'm printing perhaps
Tests. You mean you're testing a lot there?
yeah, if I'm doing a lot of test prints, then my printing to kind of photos ratio is not very good, not very cost effective.
So you still prefer that? So you still prefer that than send it to a pro lab then?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Why is that then, Darren?
I say yes, definitely. I've never sent it away to a pro lab, but I like to print it. I like to look at it, and then because I found that since I've been printing my photos, I can see so much more in my prints than I could on the screen.
Yeah, as soon as you've got something physical, it's as if it's more tangible to your eye.
Yeah.
As Jamie will know with print, when you're doing some print runs, and as in if you're doing a print run with texting or you're proofreading, you always spot the mistakes when it's all done.
Yeah.
So it's always good to keep printing. Have you never tried a continuous ink system on your printer?
No, what's that?
Well, you can do it, but you have to kind of break your printer to do it. Depends what printer you've got. You can basically buy tanks and the slot onto the side of your printer, and you fill them up with like a syringe. It works out a lot cheaper. You can have bigger tanks, and you connect your print heads to like ribbons, if you like. They're a bit like
right.
tubes that connect to your print head, and then you get a lot more for your money, but the ink's cheaper because you're not buying it in a cartridge, so you're just buying these jellied bags of ink, if you like, and then you kind of syringe them and pop them into your continuous ink system. Have a look at it.
But what happened to you? Because you didn't have a great experience, did you, Gal, when you sent your images away once?
No, that was basically what I didn't realise, because I don't print very often. Although I do a bit more now. I've actually been given a printer, which was really good. But I never used to print, and I never realised that the image that you see on the screen is actually considerably darker than, or is considerably darker if you send it to print, because you've got the backlight of the screen lighting up the image. So you have to knock up the exposure like half a stop, maybe even a stop, to get it printed. So I sent a load off, and specifically one I really liked the look of, and I thought, oh, that would look really good on art paper, not knowing anything about art paper whatsoever. I was like, oh yeah, that would look really good on a bit of art paper. And it came back terrible, really awful, and I was like gutted because I'd spent about 60 quid. All of the prints were dark, and that one, which I was really hoping was going to turn out well, was awful. So yeah, but I've got my head around it now. When I do send off, I know that I just need to knock the exposure up a bit, and that normally fixes it.
The profiles don't. They say, oh, you download our profiles, but I find that you still need to adjust. And like Darren, you're saying there, you print off. It's the only way. If you're there with a printer, you can see it and go, can you just alter this a bit? But when you send them off, like Gary, I've had the same where different print houses do different. Some people don't care, and they're running off that many prints. You've got to set it right. But Sal Digital, I'm not pushing them at all, because they might have been terrible for some people, but I've had really good experiences with them doing aluminium prints. So, again, they take the time and they look at your work, and they'll email you back and say, do you know, you've got this a little bit dark,
yeah, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I use Loxley, and all the prints you see behind me there.
Oh, Loxley.
All via Loxley. That print there, the Yorkshire Dales, it came back with a scratch on it, and it's on fabric paper. Sent it straight back, sent one straight away. Really good customer service and really good quality.
They're a good printer, Loxley. Came from a greetings card manufacturing background, and they've migrated into photo. It's ironic, really. I buy about 50 million quid's worth of print in my job, but I don't print anything myself. I haven't got a printer. I don't print anything at home. It's
funny, actually, because my wife said to me, like, this is a little while back, why do you go out and take all those photos just to have them on your screen? Store them. Why don't you print them out? Because what's the end product if you don't? And I was like, well, I like to go through my Flickr archive and look at them, but actually having something on a screen having something on print is so much better. It's like you say, it's tangible.
That's a fair comment, but also don't forget, when you print it out, very few people see it. So when you share something online, you get far more feedback. So it's not necessarily no result if you don't print.
And you get that buzz from the feedback occasionally as well, don't you?
But don't you find that you enjoy the prints if they're on the wall? I mean, I've got two hanging in the kitchen, and one of them is what you guys mentioned the other day. Them 3 boats at Pin Mill. But the other one, I mean, don't get me, them 3 boats at Pin Mill, that I think it's a beautiful photo. I absolutely love that photo. But the other photo that I've got framed is with you and I, Dave, when we wild camped on the Glidders, and then we had that temperature inversion. Now that photo is a great photo. I love that photo, but every time I look at it, it brings back all these emotions of me and you doing the hike, because that was the first hike that I ever did. I didn't know if I could do it because I had so much weight on my back and on my front, and but kind of wild camping up there. So every time I look at that photo, it's so much more to me than just a photo. I think that's why you should print.
I'm quite guilty of not printing, because all the printing I've done has either been commercially or for gifts. So I haven't got any of my own prints. But I really should do something about that, I think.
Jamie, what are you drinking?
Well, I've just filled up on a Spitfire. Can I say that I'm so annoyed with Darren for stealing the winning beer last week? Did you see that? Did you read in the comments for last week?
I just comment after comment. I just went
those
through
rankings with his
0 to hero in one video.
You did. I was well impressed. Just shows what Guinness does.
Absolutely.
So to try and combat it, which I don't really got stand much chance, but I've got Spitfire, I've got Hobgoblin IPA, and I've got 2 XXXBs from Batesman.
Bloody hell.
That's my attempt to try and topple you.
Well, we know James, he's on his cup of tea. Are you back at Yorkshire?
Yeah, back at Yorkshire.
What's Darren on? What's Darren having?
I'm still on the Guinness.
And what's David on?
Now, I have to give public thanks to a chap who wrote a comment in on the last one, a chap called Thurlow Dave, who lives not too far from here. I was bemoaning the fact that the Purple Moose Brewery had shut down for the duration.
That's right, yeah.
Dave wrote in and said, they've reopened for online orders. So by Tuesday, a case of Purple Moose Glaslyn had arrived. And by Friday, I've got a couple of bottles left.
Whoa, brilliant. That's
Very
a great
good.
story. Lovely.
Gal?
And Gal?
Me, I'm on Italian blush wine. No, not really. I'm drinking Leffe tonight.
A bit of leaf,
which I really like. And, no, I do really like. And I thought I'd be a little bit topical. Also got some Corona.
There's a dirty hangover in the morning.
Well, on the Leffe, definitely. I used to drink. Do you remember? I don't know if you. Do you ever have Hogarden?
Hogarden, yeah.
Oh my God, jeez, no. The hangovers I used to get from that were chronic, but I love drinking it. So
yeah, but we all know you'll be on the blush as soon as we finished.
Yeah, no doubt.
And a packet of lemon puffs.
Fruit-based beer for the lady.
I'm on the pint cans.
Oh, big boy cans.
Yeah. Training.
So still with Strongbow, just the pint cans.
A Strongbow.
Getting back on to photography, and I thought of a question. Nothing to do with prostate, so everybody can relax this week. But it got me thinking, because I always shoot with my Canon M6 on my B-roll, and I just shoot on 1080p.
Yeah.
But just recently with my Sony, I was shooting some B-roll with that, and I was shooting 4K. And it just blew me away, the real difference in quality between the two. And then I think, like Canon's new camera is going to be shooting 8K.
Yeah.
I just think, do you think they'll ever get a time when video just becomes so good that it will actually, it's not worth even taking photos anymore? You might as well just take a video and then just pick a frame out.
You can do that now, can't you, with 4K? 4,000 pixels.
Yep.
Longest edge, so you can take a still from a video now. But I think where you're going is it's like a line from Back to the Future, where we're going with cameras. We won't need cameras.
That's what I mean. It's like if we're all sitting there kind of, especially if you was doing, like, say, wildlife or sports or something that's really fast moving, or even kind of, just waiting for the sun to kind of perhaps poke through a tree every now and again when you get that nice kind of burst, and you're constantly there, with your finger on the trigger. I mean, you just let the camera run for 10 minutes and then just pick the best still.
But let's be honest though, where's the fun in that?
There is no fun.
It's
the whole
enjoyment is just going to take completely out of the equation.
Yeah, the whole point of photography for me is the joy of getting the shot. Not necessarily because like you say, if you're shooting on 8K, you can just leave it running and just pick with the best one. But then you might as well just put it down and go down a pub and then come back and pick your shot, and that's that. So
no, but we're talking about us, because the 6 of us are photographers and we enjoy doing what we do. But yeah. I'm talking about in the future. Do you think that is the way it's going to go?
I think it'll be something like Black Mirror, where you'll just blink and take a picture. You'll be like, like that. You know, your eyes will be linked up digitally and all that business. Let's face it, the best picture you'll ever see is the one through your eyes.
I actually think what will happen, and I saw something on this, and I think it was Google, and you just draw a picture, and then Google brings in the images from the web and puts it together as a composite. And I think that's what will happen with people. People who are too lazy to take photos, they'll say, I want a photo of a waterfall. I'll just draw a blue line down here. And I want a mountain, so I'll draw a green bit on the screen here. And then Google goes off and it actually picks those, from photos online, puts it all together, and there's your photo. That's what will happen if people can't be bothered.
That's scary.
In the future.
So that's the end of landscape.
No.
Well, it is for them.
Of course it is.
It is for them, but it wouldn't be for me.
I think it makes it more of an art form for us, because you can have these auto-generates, like I said about Black Mirror, where you take pictures with your eyes. But there's something about the heart and soul that overrides a computer, that overrides a system. Something about emotion and feeling that we all have, why we go out, why we take pictures, that makes all our content original. I don't think that'll ever be replicated. Maybe by artists like Francis Bacon, or, they'll never be replicated.
Maybe you could make it comparable to music. Musically, you can do everything through a computer and a synthesizer, without touching any keys or playing any strings. But you can always tell good music that's played live on a guitar or on a piano. It is completely different, isn't it? So even though it's possible to make music electronically, or with software, the real stuff's live. You can't beat the real stuff.
That's a good point. I like that. That's filled me with hope, actually.
It's also fair to say that, unless your camera takes 8K 60 frames a second at RAW, you're probably not going to use the output, because if you grab a frame, you've lost most of the data.
The other thing is, if you're talking of 8K video and then picking a frame from it, you're going to need thousands of bloody NAS drives to store the images and the video files.
You are, but you can use a crop of that. You can crop really, really close in, though, can't you? Especially on 8K. Yeah. So you might have more freedom.
I always think there's benefits to technology, but nothing will ever like do what we are as individuals and how we see and think. And I love that.
Technology will never replicate the human soul, basically.
No. And it's fair to say that no matter how good technology gets, it's unlikely that any of us would be inspired by a photographer that goes, well, here's a frame that my camera caught. There you go. Take it or leave it. Everything that you get presented with, that you engage with positively, has probably been thought through and then post-processed. And there's something more behind it than grabbing a frame.
Yeah, I never actually said who I'd hang on my wall in that. And I think this stands out even more going off what we're saying now. Because
Maddie, can I stop you?
Yeah.
Before we carry on, it's whose photo, not the person, all right? So just, it's who. I don't want you to hang a person on the wall.
Oh,
okay, because that could be a completely different answer, couldn't it, Maddie?
That's got a different avenue.
Topic altogether.
Now you've given me an idea. To new people, I'd like to hang on my wall. Mainly female, but this person, that's a good caveat actually. This person is a female, a lady of Rachel Talibar. And
oh yes.
There's something about, we're talking about computers and generating imagery.
It's
but there's something about the moment of the image click, the split second, that it's a moment in time that can happen once, and never ever will anyone ever again get that moment, click that in time. And she stands out for me at the moment. I've been really enjoying her work, and I think I'd hang on a bit.
She released some videos as well, hasn't she, recently on Twitter, I see.
Yeah, superb.
But how many frames will she shoot to get that moment?
Does she? Because
surely.
Yeah.
You can't be that lucky where images create or replicate some faces of gods in the waves. You've got to shoot lots of frames.
I genuinely think, like,
we're watching anyway. Perhaps you can tell us.
The computer thing, get on, drop a comment, Rachel, But I definitely think that there's something about a connection, that she's not just spraying and praying. I think she's so familiar with the movement of the ocean. It's almost like a time in a rhythm, and then there's a time when I now need to capture that shot. And
I think you make a really interesting point, and something that has cropped up in discussion with me previously when people have said, "Oh, you know, which photographers do you like? Who are your influences?" It's interesting because there are a number of female photographers that I really enjoy, and if pressed, I think it's because ladies are better able to express emotions. And the more emotion you can get into a picture, for me, very often, the better it is.
It's a good shout, that, David.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Verity Milligan is another one.
That was one of mine, Gary. Yeah, definitely Verity, yeah.
Yeah, some of the stuff around the Lake District. She took one shot that I've seen with the mist rising, and there's a small island, and there's a boat in front of it, and it's in autumn, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I think that's a stunning picture.
But it's not just that. She can make Birmingham look nice.
Because of the emotional content, because of the connection to the landscape.
It's because she doesn't vlog.
Who said last week about, I think it was Gary who said about the rock in the foreground. And, you know, there's this formula of people go out and there's a rock foreground, midground, and then, you know, and there's this formula. And I think there's something to be said about that. It's not a sexist comment, this at all. I agree with David. I think there's an emotional connection with the landscape, and I really do think that as photographers we should all look at that more.
There's a lady on Anglesey that you probably haven't heard of, but if you get a chance, just Google her name. She's called Cheryl Hamer, and she specializes in really pastel, ethereal coastal scenes. You'll never see her up a mountain. A lot of multiple exposure, a lot of ICM, but in every case, not just for its own sake, in a way that really enhances the mood of what it is she's shooting. And she's influenced me quite a lot in terms of my coastal photography.
Sounds
talking about Mally, you were just saying, you know, I was talking last week about the formulaic sort of classic shot.
Yeah.
I was trying to think back to where I got that from, and I remember now. It was I think it was on Twitter. Someone had posted an article, and it was something like the last 12 months of a particular photography magazine. I can't remember which one it was, but literally they posted, I think it might have been last 9 months worth of copies all side by side, and literally they were all essentially the same shot, just in different locations.
Yeah.
You know, they're exactly the same composition, exactly the same foreground, in the same shape, with the mountains in the same shape. And even if it wasn't mountains, it was something else that formed that shape in the background. And it seems to be that is the, you know,
the formula that works.
Yeah, of the day. You know, the formula of the day is to have that particular thing. And you look at some photographers who are, you know, brilliant, but they all follow that formula.
Yeah.
When they post an image, they post it, and suddenly everyone's like, "Oh yeah, great shot, great shot, great shot." And I'm like, "Well, I can see why they're saying great shot, because it's following the formula, the trend of the day."
Are you following someone else? Yeah.
So the rules of composition. So when it's the composition lacks emotion, I think all of us here are quite emotional individuals. So it's an interesting thought that when does composition and emotion, they're colliding with each other. You know. I really like that, actually.
I'm going to draw the conversation linked in a way to something I saw on social media this week, which was somebody asked what makes a good landscape photographer. And a well-known landscape photographer that we all know really well, some more than others, made a comment. And it was a bit of an epiphany for me, really, because it was one that I know James has made a few times on some of his vlogs around, and I'll read out what he put, because I thought it was quite interesting. He said, "Someone who doesn't follow trends and plows their own furrow, regardless of pleasing others, is not just about the quality of the image. Any bleep, it might give you a clue to who this is, can make a good image these days, and there's plenty that do. A coherent body of work or projects that contain a narrative and also separate the wheat from the chaff, as opposed to amassing a collection of disparate images that bear a remarkable resemblance to everyone else's. And I thought, he's absolutely right. You know, it's...
I know who that is.
Okay.
That's Nick Livesey.
It is Nick. Yeah, absolutely. And I thought to myself, he's spot on. And for me, I thought back about what I've done in the last 2-3 years, and I've gone out to various places and I've shot stuff. And I wouldn't say that, apart from the stuff maybe I've done at Home Fen and the rest of it, there's no collection of work or body of work that I could say represents me. It's just a collection of images that I've taken around the place. And it made me think, okay, I like that. Maybe what I need to try and do is to look at creating a body of work to represent me as a photographer, that then other people will say, yeah, that work has been produced by Jamie because I can recognize it. It's in his genre, it's in his theme, it matches his style. And does that make us a good landscape photographer? Because we've developed that theme and body of work that people respect and understand. And you mentioned some people already, that lady at Anglesey, you know, she does that work and you recognize her for that. So,
yeah, I mean, it's a really good point, because the thing about Nick, and I've been out with Nick, and what's really interesting, we talk as landscape photographers about, oh, what you leave out of the composition is as important as what you put into the composition. What Nick does is takes it to the next level, and what he bothers pointing his camera at, because when I've been out with him, he didn't get his camera out of his bag once, and he's looked around and gone, nah, there's nothing here. I'm leaving it all out for today. And I think that, you know, that has a lot to do with it. And we talked about last time out when we got together, and we talked about, oh, you know, there are times when you just go out and enjoy the landscape and don't bother trying to capture some pixels.
You see, I feel like I'm the same as Jamie. And I think when you said to me last week, James, about, you know, when I was talking about my processing, and you said, oh, if you know, do you not want to over process it because you're frightened of kind of coming away from your brand?
Your brand, yeah.
But I don't feel that I have a brand. And I think because, and like we said on Pubcast 1 or 2, you need to be really inspired by an area, I feel. Now, because I'm not overly inspired by East Anglia, I shoot East Anglia when I can't get to Snowdonia. So my point is, I think if I lived, say, in Snowdonia or the Lake District, and I didn't want to leave that area, or I lived on a coast that had like really aggressive waves, you know, and I think, you know, my genre is coastal photography, I think perhaps then I would start to build up a brand. But I feel that I tend to flip from one thing to another, not because I want to, but because where I live, I feel like I've got no choice.
There's a reason for a brand, though, isn't there? The reason for the brand is its commerciality. So what we do as individuals is, it's all right saying develop a style, but we're being told to develop a style because we need to make money. We need to be commercial. I don't.
Yeah, but I look at James's photos. And I know that's James. You know, when I see, or 9 times out of 10, you know, I look at a photo, and if 6 of us was to put images up now, I could tell you which one would be James's, because James likes to process in that way. He gets that mood. He kind of gets that feel.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with that, though, because I know what you're saying. You would recognise our pictures, and definitely James would be the one to what you're saying, but I do think if you go down the path of what you're saying about brand, and I think you're then going towards commerciality, and then you're going towards limitation. You're then heading down a path of limitation.
Yeah, but I think the point was, because I don't think this is necessarily, because we talked about this in the last podcast, didn't we, about processing and how we can get similarities. I think this is more around representing a body of work, so a collection of images that all link together or tell a story or take you through a journey or something like that. And I think that's something that, I think that's where the point was. It's not necessarily about all being processed in the same way. It's about all on a similar theme. And if you follow somebody, you want to understand a bit more about what they're doing and what they've done, not necessarily in terms of where they've been, but just, I guess, just collectively bringing those images together, which I don't tend to do. I just got a lot of disparate images, really.
I think the biggest way that you can, I'm not talking about build a brand at all in terms of commercial ventures, but the biggest way you can forge a style of your own, in my opinion, is to shoot what you love. Shoot what you love, and if you go out enough and shoot what you love, then that will come across in your images. You know, it's like you know, don't worry if Nick Livesey says that you need I'm not disrespecting Nick, but don't worry if Nick Livesey says that you need a body of work that's all, you know, comparable and knits together well. Just do what you like, do what you love, do what you enjoy. It's your hobby, you know.
Yeah, but if you can't get to the places that you absolutely love, I think like Jamie, it gets mixed up a little bit, because you have to be, you know, you have to go to the coast one week, perhaps go to the woodlands, then get to the mountains when you can, then come back to the woodlands, bit in the fens. You know, I think, I say, if you lived in a place that can you imagine how lucky you are to live in a place that you didn't want to leave? Look at Dave. How many times have you been? How many times have you been to the Lake District, Dave?
Once.
Well, there you go. And why is that?
Because you lot were there.
But why don't you go more?
Because I'd be driving past better scenery to get to it.
There you go.
Yeah, but I love that diversity. I love the fact that, I mean, I get what you're saying completely, Darren. I do, but I love the diversity. I love the fact that, you know, when I can get to somewhere like Snowdonia, I'm there. But I like, you know, going and shooting a bit of street, or going and shooting something in the woods, or hopping over to the sea, you know, every now and again. I like that diversity, and for me, that's kind of keeps it fresh. Yeah. If I lived on Anglesey, like Dave does, I wouldn't want to shoot on Anglesey and Snowdonia every day. I'd want to go somewhere else. I would. As much as I love it there, I'd still want to go to the Fens, or I'd want to go to, you know, I want to go to Scotland, but equally I want to go down to Dorset. Yeah. You know, as much as that. So
yeah, Dorset coastline and Jurassic coastline, some beautiful places.
I think that's where the benefits of a project comes into itself. If you've got an opportunity where you can home in and just focus on a certain location, return, back to the same location, and just tweak the composition, then surely that's gonna improve your work anyway.
That was what I was thinking of, James, when I read that, was that, you know, I know you've started a project and I want to start this project as well in Home Fen, and it was that thought process is going through my mind, is like going back again and again and challenging yourself to find better compositions, different compositions, different light.
Just stick to the same.
Yeah, and it just helps you improve as well as creating that sort of style. Not saying you stick there all the time, but it just gives you that project, doesn't it?
Because what I want to do at the end of it, I'm doing a Yorkshire Dales project. What I want to do, and the end product is a book. I want to do my own photo book, and that is some sort of accomplishment for me. It's some sort of reward.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, 100%. Because I watched a gentleman on the Now Landscape. Is it? Yeah, I think Now Landscape. And there was a documentary type thing of it. He's a very famous photographer. I'm sorry, I forgot his name. And he did a study on a stream, and it was just a stream and nothing else for 20 years. He kept going back to the stream and photographing the stream, and it really inspired me, because the stream was no bigger than a stream that's round the corner from me. And what he produced, a book, it produced lots of work, a great body of work from that. And I thought, well, we can all do what Gary's saying. We can go off, and I completely agree with Gary. I love variety. I love mixing it up. But Jamie, good luck with the project, mate, because there's nothing better than having something to focus on, like James with his, you know, his craggy stone foreground, leading lines, and the carved landscape. And each and every one of us, I think the project we have, it becomes soulful. It becomes a little bit more than just going out with your pride and
joy. It becomes personal to you as well.
Yeah.
Well, Darren's got that with his tits at the moment.
Robin's won it. I'm seeing more Robins than tits, to be honest.
Well, I must admit, I found a great bush where the tits hang out today.
Yeah. Is it trimmed or?
No, I did. No, it was at work today, and I just stood there this morning, and I just thought, this is the place for tits. So,
was there any swallow involved? Or?
No, I didn't see them. No, I didn't see them at all, mate.
Can you give me some advice on getting tits in my garden, mate? Because I'm having major issues.
Fat balls. How's your fat balls?
I've got. How very personal.
If you
Don't
go down for fat balls, give them a squeeze into a log, you'll get tits.
I've done that though.
I've done that.
I've drilled some holes. I've pushed the old, fat balls into the holes. I've got some stuff up. Nothing. Not pigeons, but nothing.
Magpies.
You're probably getting too much thrush action in your bush.
Silence. Tumbleweed moments. Please talk amongst yourself.
Yeah, Gary's editing this. But no, joking aside, like I was at the college today and they just have got some beautiful grounds there. They really have. And I was just there today and I was just, as I say, in a part of the college that I don't kind of normally go. It's quite dark. There's some better looking parts I feel in the grounds, and then because you can't hear nothing, and then just at the corner of the eye, you just see like a little flash. Then you have to really search for them. And it was only at that point that I realised actually how much wildlife was in this tiny area of the college. So that was actually a good find today. So yeah, joking aside, everything I said, apart from some innuendo, was all true. There was some great tits in that bush. I've not done this yet, and I was going to ask actually your opinion on tonight's pubcast. We're now in, what is it? Is it week 4 or week
5? Week 5.
Week 5.
No. It's about week 2000, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, it's year 2000.
So I go out not because I'm back at work now, obviously, but
this is going to be a really controversial subject about.
Yeah,
it
is. So
brilliant.
I go out for a walk on a Saturday and a Sunday with Helen. Like Helen goes, she's not at work, so she goes out 7 days a week. But on a Saturday and Sunday, and we do this walk. That's a beautiful walk. We start off, we go past the cathedral, down to the river. Walk along the river, you've got the meadow, and then you come to the pits where you've got loads of wildlife. And I think, well, okay, I'm walking. Is it okay to take my camera with me, a long lens? I'm not on a tripod. I'm not like framing up a composition. But sometimes I've walked down that river and there's been some beautiful swans flying up the river. And I think, if I had my camera, I could go, and that's it. And then carry on walking.
Is your purpose of the journey for your exercise, your walk, or is it a photo trip? That's the key question.
It's a walk. It's
exactly. But there's no reason whatsoever you can't take your camera. Why? Why should anyone deny the fact that you're a photographer? You want to go out, you want to take pictures whilst doing your walk.
Precisely, because Joe Average goes out with his mobile phone and points at everything.
Yeah.
Joe Average used to go to a restaurant and point his mobile phone at his lunch. As far as I'm concerned, I take a far better piece of kit to take pictures with because that's my Joe Average. I found out this week, and you can leave this in because I don't care. I found out this week that if you cycle or walk, they're quite happy for you to go down to Llandwyn Island.
Yeah.
Because my mate on the island bumped into NRW who said, yeah, no problem at all, mate. You're cycling down, go for it, enjoy yourself.
Can I just interject here? Do you know what the problem is? And we all know what it is. I'm not injecting myself with disinfectant, but let's get to the fucking point here. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty and say exactly what we think. Is common sense needs to prevail. If I'm going out with a fucking camera and I'm taking pictures and there's no one around me for 4 miles, and you can put this in, Gary, but you'll have to bleep it. Seriously, is any of us doing any harm? It's not like I'm putting my hands on trees for other people to touch those trees.
Okay. So
most places we go do not get touched by humans.
No, they don't. So here's the issue, right? Here's the issue.
Go on.
And this is where I see
Go for it.
So there's people on my Facebook who are my wife's Facebook friends, right? And they've gone for a bike ride, and they've ridden from one place to Bedford Town Centre, which is like 5-mile ride, and that's
built up area.
And that's fine. That's fine, right? And they're sitting there in Bedford Town Centre having an ice cream, and they're like, "Do you know what? It's completely dead in the centre. It's great. There's no harm. We're not doing any harm." Here's the problem. Right? Is if you're doing it, and then your friends are doing it, and then someone else is doing it, and then 10 other people are doing it, and someone else is doing it. The reason that you are all on your own is because everyone else is abiding by the rules. Okay, everyone else is sticking to the rules. So
no. Hold on. What about the exercise?
No, the exercise is fine. I get the exercise. What Darren's talking about is perfectly fine. If he goes out with the camera around his shoulder and he goes through his exercise and he sees some birds and he says, I'm going to snap those while I'm wandering around, fine. Yeah. It's when you suddenly say, I'm going to take my camera, I'm going to take my backpack, I'm going to take my vlogging gear, I'm going to take everything else with me, and I'm going to go and make a vlog. I'm going to go and make a vlog from wherever you go. Then what's to stop matey around the corner with 5,000 subs?
Because they're obviously not family guys as well.
Every Tom, Dick and Harry without common sense.
It's okay. The reason that you can get away with doing that is because everyone else is abiding by the rules. And if you've got 5 other people who say, well, I'm going to go out to wherever it is, and I'm going to make my reason for leaving my house to do a vlog, then that is then wrong, because then suddenly you're encouraging everyone else to do it. So if you're just going out on your exercise, your daily exercise, and you're literally just taking snaps while you're out, there's nothing wrong with that. Of course there isn't.
There's not, but common sense has to prevail. I completely agree with what you're saying. I'd just like to point out, I haven't been out my fecking house for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. And David now saying about going to Clanwyn Island.
No, mate, I'm going there, but I won't be vlogging it. And I won't.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong.
I will.
Other people will then, like Gary's saying.
He's right. Gary is 100% right. If I go down to Llandwyn Island and go, oh look, here's my channel, here's my vlog, I was at Llandwyn, every other will be straight down there.
Exactly.
And Gary's absolutely right. What I'll be doing is sneaking down there like my mate Rich and going, nice bit of scenery, thank you very much, and coming straight home without telling anybody other than you 6 guys.
And I look at it in 2 ways as well. It's like I look at it and say, well, do you know what? You shouldn't be doing that, right? You shouldn't, not you, Dave. I'm saying you shouldn't be going out and you shouldn't be taking advantage of the rules and flouting them because no one else is flouting the rules.
Flouting the rules.
Yeah, but then equally, I look at it and say, do you know what? If you want to go out, fine, go out and, infect yourself with this horrible disease and die, and then it'll be your own fault that you've decided to flout the rules because you think that's acceptable, and you go out and do whatever you want and don't care about the consequences and anyone else. But just, if you're going to do it, do everyone a favour, contract it, and don't go and spend time with anyone else and give it to them.
Yeah, but if you're going to go out for a walk and you're going to go out for exercise, like I think James has done it perfectly. You don't take your tripod. And I understand the big camera statement about you may as well take a camera with you. But for me, I think if you're going to go out, you're allowed to go out and exercise. And what frustrates me is the ground between common sense and idiocy. And I guess because we're small faces, we kind of could affect things. And I totally agree with you there, Gary. But common sense surely should allow us, without getting abuse, because people get abuse for just going out for a walk and taking a picture. And that's what worries me. That's what upsets me, is that we're just going out for a walk as artists to take a picture without really stopping.
I'll put this on my Facebook, right? Unfortunately, this disease is killing the vulnerable and the elderly, right? What it should be killing, or what it isn't killing, is the stupid, right? If it were killing the stupid, right, the people who don't care and the people who just want to go, like, I don't care, because I'm young and I'm fine, and even if I get it, it's going to be a mild dose. Yeah, but what about your mum? And what about your dad and your nan and your granddad and the elderly people that you're bumping into? Those are the people that really matter, not you idiot. It doesn't matter if you want to go out and do whatever it is that you want to do, but think about everyone else.
Yeah, you make a really good point, and I would like, if at all possible, if we could perhaps leave this bit in. Tomorrow, when this gets published, is my mum's 70th birthday.
You broke up there, Dave. What was that?
A bit of static. And
happy birthday, Mrs. Griff.
Happy birthday, Mrs. Griff.
Yeah, happy
that's
birthday.
what
What's she called, Dave? What's she called?
She's called Jackie Griffiths.
Jackie. Happy birthday, Jackie.
And she's, as it happens, James, she's
Shalom,
from your
Jackie.
neck of the woods.
Oh, really?
She lives on Mally's side of the Pennines and hates it.
Oh, well, yeah. Understand it, sir.
She watches all of these all the way through because she's locked down and she's got nothing better to do.
Bless her.
And she's exactly the sort of person that Gary's just talking about, because I'm not remotely thinking about jumping in the car and driving up to Preston to stand at the end of the drive and say, have a happy 70th birthday.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if I go down to Llandwyn Island tomorrow on my bike, it's because I'm going down there to do a bit of exercise, breathe in a bit of sea air, and then scuttle straight home. And nobody apart from you guys will be any the wiser.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the long and short of it. And I think it's a tragedy, an absolute tragedy, that there are so many very silly people out there who are not going to be adversely affected by the virus, and an awful lot of really sensible, unfortunate people who sadly are being right now today. And you know, last week we did a round of applause for the NHS, and I'm sure we would echo that again this week. The fact remains that, as Mally said, we're small faces.
Can I just say,
call it a spade, we are semi-influencers. Yeah. And if we go out and go, oh, well, you know, here I am on the summit of Moel Shabod and there's nobody for miles around. Nick Livesey can walk out of his back garden onto the flank of Moel Shabod and start climbing. Has he done it once? No, he hasn't. He stayed in his back room and played guitar.
It's not the right thing to do, is it? No,
can I just say, can we end this vlog with 10 seconds of silence and it just ends? And we say, I would like to just dedicate this to all the people who have been lost and have lost lives due to what's happening in the world at the moment. And whether common sense prevails or what, let's just have a minute and a thought, 10 seconds for these people who've died. Because it just is turning into numbers for me. I am sick of hearing of death as a number. These are family, these are friends, these are people we work with, these are people we love.
But I tell you what Dave was saying earlier about, you know, kind of the young, I think it was Dave who was saying that. I think we know now it's not just the young, it's not just the elderly that can die from this virus. And I think it almost had to see some of the younger generation contracting this and dying from it for the younger generation to actually stand up and think, oh, crikey, this isn't the over 60s. This ain't an over 60s illness. This is anybody's illness.
Yes, everyone.
You know? And that is what made me ask the original question. You know, would it be frowned upon? You know, when I go out for my standard walk, it takes literally an hour. The route that we take, and we have had some cracking mornings, as we all know. There's been no cloud. You know, living in the fens, that is one bonus. You get to see the sun come up over the horizon. And me and Helen, we walked down to the river. I think it was last weekend, and there was this mist just rolling across. It was beautiful, mist rolling across the river. The sky was orange, and there were so many birds around, and there was these huge kind of geese, and then there were some swans coming straight. And I just thought, if only I've had my camera with me today. But I didn't. And then I thought, well, actually, you know, when you're shooting at 0.002 of a second, you know, this is the good thing with, I suppose, the wildlife. It's not landscape. You're not on a tripod. You're not standing there waiting. I thought, would anybody mind if I just shot off a couple of frames? Or is that flouting the rules? Is it going to be frowned upon?
It's the common sense thing again, Darren. If you're doing that walk and you're getting your exercise and you've got a camera at 0.002 of a second and you're doing a route that's really close to home and you're going to be back home within the time it takes you to get to A to B, and you're not basically doing anything that's silly, as in they're opening KFC, I believe. Can you believe this? Anyway, I'm not going to get into KFC and all that, but Darren, you're doing something that you have to do. I've put some weight on. I've not been out for 6 weeks, and I really do need the exercise.
The thing is, everybody's forgotten. There was a period prior to the formal lockdown that was, if you like, the common sense lockdown. It just didn't work because there are too many people out there who are just too stupid. Yeah. And, at the end of the day, had that not been the case, we would still be in the common sense lockdown. Yeah,
bell ends, I like to call them. Bell ends. Yeah. Bell ends.
Have you noticed that the pubcast has got a little bit more sweary the more people drink?
I was watching Gary's face every time Mally swore and thinking he's never going to edit this by the end of Saturday.
No.
I've only swore twice, haven't I?
No. Well, in your head you might have.
Twice every minute.
Per sentence.
Really? Have I been swearing quite a bit?
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't stopped.
I've tried to.
It's just with one constant beep, Mally.
Yeah. This is going to sound like an hour of white noise.
I think in all seriousness, I think you started to get a really poignant moment going there, Mally, and I think it was quite.
I think it'd be nice to finish it.
And I think maybe, I don't know how you want to cut this, Gary, but I think that point was really good, and I think it led into a nice ending. So I think I don't know how you.
Can I just make one more point though?
Yeah.
This is really, really difficult times for a lot of people, and you've got to think about the mental health of people.
Yeah.
And to take someone's ability to go out on the walk and take a photograph, for goodness sake, it's just adding to the pain, is it not? Sure.
I was listening to LBC as I do the other day, and they were talking about possibly opening up the fishing lakes. And there was a lot of callers kind of coming, saying, well, that's ridiculous. For one, fishing is bloody boring. And everyone was kind of laughing and kind of giggling, at that kind of comment. And, well, there's no exercise. But the thing is, I've spoke about this on the pubcast before. Fishing for me, as I say, I went there to catch, obviously. But it is so peaceful. And what you're saying, James, I think we've got to now think about people's mental health.
Yeah,
I was coming through Cambridge today, and I spoke to Helen about this on the way home. It was beautiful sunshine, and as I was coming out of Cambridge, there's a kind of a row of shops, and above that there's some offices and some flats as well. But the building is probably a couple of 100 years old. And as I was driving up there was nothing on the road, but I was driving up to some traffic lights that were red. So I slowed down and I just kind of looked up, and there was what appeared to be a young girl, because I only kind of see her out the corner of my eye. But the window was open, and she had her head out of the window, and she was just laying on her hands, like with the sun in her face. And first of all, my first reaction was, oh, that's really sweet. She's kind of getting some vitamin D. And then I actually thought about it. I thought, that could be quite sad, because she might not have been out, this girl, like all day. Yeah. And that's her only bit of sunshine is to sit by the window with her head on her hands. And actually, I went from, oh, that's sweet, to actually feeling a little bit choked for her.
Well, not many a cracking photo as well, no, but as well.
Well, that's probably all she's got. That's probably all she's got.
I'd just go back to what I said originally when we started this podcast about how we should smile and laugh. And I really think that's important, that we should continue to smile and laugh and not let these things that we speak of darken our days, because darkness is the path that leads us to this virus. Deep breaths, plenty of air in the lungs, and cold showers.
And I also
No bro, man.
I think as well, Manny, your 10 seconds of silence is a really good idea. So,
Yeah. Should we do that? Should I say it?
Yeah.
You just come up with something, right? So we've all been talking about what's going on in the world and how we're all affected, every one of us. I'm not Madonna in a bath with flowers. We're all people who have family, and we love our family. And we've all lost people at this point in time. And I think we're going to end the podcast with a minute of silence, or YouTube world will say 20 to 30 seconds of silence. And I hope you can all join us and have a little thought, little prayer for the people we love and we have lost.